It is the Purple Yeti, and he's back again for the Purple Yeti Roar. I'm, of course, the Purple Yeti. I have my ridiculous moniker. Got my K-State shirt, my old school K-State shirt. You'll find out here in a second. And since it's the start of October, I get to enjoy some of this tasty pumpkin spice Via from Starbucks. Oh yeah, that is the spot. Well, I actually got to watch football this week. Both Friday, Thursday, on top of Saturday. Good times. Now I didn't get to see complete games on the weekdays, but hey, that's fine. They were interesting nonetheless. And then, of course, yesterday's contests, or at least what I watched. So, let's get right into it. Oh boy. Well, Thursday saw Texas narrowly escape Ames against Iowa State. I watched a lot of that game, and man, that's the only thing Case McCoy can do is come from behind. He'll probably end up having to do that next week in the Red Rivalry shootout. And man, everybody loves to pile on Texas, so I'm not going to pile on, but I'm going to point out that they did narrowly escape in that there was that cheap shot that Mike Davis did. If you find the internets, that was blatant, and he should have had some sort of reprimand or whatever. Now everyone's like, oh, send him out for the year, but that's because they just like to pile on. I think that kid should have missed at least a game or so because he was obviously trying to injure that guy. And of course, the refs didn't catch it. And that's the other controversy for that game, was the quote-unquote refs didn't catch the fumble at the goal line that Iowa State picked up toward the end of the game. Well, let me tell you this. If you would have watched it, it was forward progress. His forward progress had stopped, and then he started getting it back. That's the rule. Whistle or no whistle. Now, as a K-State fan, I needed Texas to lose so K-State could be in the title hunt. We'll get to that in a second. But you got to call them as you see them, and that is the rules. So people need to stop crying about that. So Texas will probably get reamed next week. Although, we'll get to Oklahoma's game here soon enough. It may, I don't know, it may be closer than expected. I think the Longhorns like the fact that everyone is piling on them, but they, man, I don't know how they're going to get everything together for next week's game. So, that's that. Now, Friday night, I saw the end of the San Diego State and Nevada game, and wow, let me tell you, Nevada putting up 21 unanswered in the fourth quarter alone, just to tie the game, was super exciting. I didn't expect it happening. I had to drop everything at the gym and just watch. Now, San Diego State eventually won, but I'll be danged if they didn't at least make it exciting. And I think that's the only thing you can really ask for, especially on a weekday night when you get nationally televised games between teams, well, of the caliber of San Diego State and Nevada. So I'm glad I stuck around for that. So, yeah, let's roll on into Saturday. Saturday, missed some of the morning games, got a new phone. The Note 3 is sweet. But got back just in time to watch Kansas State play Oklahoma State. I think everyone thought that Oklahoma State would just run right over Kansas State. I had guessed that I always pick K-State, so, you got that hanging over your head. But I had thought that they would at least make it interesting, and they did. Oklahoma State won in the end, but I'll tell you what, the offense for Kansas State did not help things. They are a wild bunch. You're either going to get like a big old 75-yard touchdown play to Kyle Gronkowski. Yeah, Gronk's a little bro. Or you're going to get a dumb pass thrown maybe by Jake Waters and now maybe by Daniel Sams. So K-State had like 4 or 5 turnovers yesterday. I think that totals 9 in the last 2 games, if I'm mistaken. And that's the key word right there. It's mistaken. They are a mistake-filled team. This is very uncharacteristic for a Bill Snyder team. These kids just start making mistakes left and right. They're not fundamentally sound. Now, I'm not going to be the guy that's going to be like, oh, hey, kick him out. You know, get rid of Bill. He's old in his age. All of a sudden, come on. You know, a lot of that you got to put on the assistants. A lot of that you got to put on the indecision for who's running the show on the offense. I mean, yesterday was weird. It looked like as soon as Jake Waters got in there and turned the ball over again, Daniel Sams got in there, and they let him throw, which was a new wrinkle. I didn't see that before. Not only that, but we also saw Jake Waters and Daniel Sams in the backfield together. So it's another new wrinkle. But the problem is that no matter who's running the show in the backfield there's a better chance they might actually turn the ball over. And I think out of anything else, and anything else for a Bill Snyder-led team, that's the nightmare. I mean, let's think about it here for a second. Let's wipe away those 9 turnovers last 2 weeks. I guarantee you, the way the scores ended in those games, down by 1 score to put you over the top, that would have changed the outcome of the game. They just held on to the frickin' ball. So I can understand the kids making mistakes and penalties all over the place. Although some of it, I mean, there was a slant for Oklahoma State. There was 2 intentional grounding plays that should have been called on Walsh that didn't happen, and there was some questionable stuff called against Kansas State. So, like one of the Daniel Sams fumbles. So that didn't help, and you're not going to get that when you go on the road. What you can control is the ball, and you need to hold on to the ball. So, yeah, you fix that, and you're going to be looking pretty good. Right now, they're not looking pretty good. I don't care who's running the show. They're both turning the ball over. And you wipe those 9 or 10 out in the last 2 games, and you got yourself a 1-loss Kansas State team that's looking pretty damn good for the Big 12 title race. Now, what are they going to do from here on out? They've got Baylor next week, and they're still scoring. Nope, they ain't going to compete. They could try to sit on the ball and play the Stanford style versus Oregon if you wanted to do like a comparison. And try to beat Baylor that way. But, I mean, you're not going to be able to run with that offense. And if they keep puking up the ball like they're doing right now, they're going to be scoring. Baylor's going to be scoring next week while they're still scoring from last week's game against West Virginia. I mean, it's plain and simple. So that's to go hold on to your balls. So, that game's over. Going forward, they have a brutal. They had a brutal opening schedule. Outlook for the year, as of like right now, I hope they make a bowl game. Texas Tech looked vulnerable yesterday against Kansas, and then Kansas became Kansas, and then Texas Tech became Texas Tech. So those 2 teams, I think Kansas just had their will stomped out yesterday. They were up 10-0, and then they just didn't score anything else, and Texas Tech woke up and just reamed them. If you see that happen a couple more times, their will is gonna be stomped out again. But that last game of the year against Kansas State is probably gonna mean a whole hell of a lot more to the Jayhawks and probably the Wildcats. It really depends on whether or not Kansas State is playing into a bowl game that week, because they could and they probably will be. Texas Tech. They get them in Manhattan. I think a home crowd would help against that. I wouldn't call it. I'd call it a coin toss, because the thing that I forgot to mention was that both Tremaine Thompson and Tyler Lockett ended up leaving the game. So Tremaine Thompson didn't play, and Tyler Lockett left the game. So they still kept it close with those injuries. But again, I go back to the turnovers. Doesn't matter who you're throwing the ball to. If you hold on to it, and you would have won that game. So, I mean, anywho. With those guys back in, you'll see Texas Tech. West Virginia is toast. So, that's, 2, maybe 3. Iowa State, that could be, Oklahoma, they're not going to beat. They're probably not going to beat Baylor. They could eke out 6 wins, and probably will have to do that at the last week of the season. So, that's my long-term prediction. Well, I already talked about Kansas State and Texas Tech. I alluded a little bit to West Virginia and Baylor. Baylor put up over 50 points and over 600 yards in the first half. And I got on and I was saying that Baylor is the new Oregon, and it is, but some people didn't like it. Smack talk, OA. But I gotta tell you, when was the last time that I could remember that Oregon put up over 50 points and 600 yards in offense with time left to go in the first half? I don't know. Scary team. I mentioned it earlier. They're even scarier now if they're doing it with the likes of West Virginia. Now, whether or not they could do that against anybody here in this conference. I'm telling you, that team is scary. So, look out. They're going to eat Kansas State's lunch. They're just, unless they pull the Stanford thing, they're going to eat it. So, I also watched, I almost got to watch all Big 12 games because I also watched TCU and Oklahoma last night. And I got to tell you, I thought TCU had it. The first half was all Oklahoma. And then the second half, TCU, the beast awoke, and Trevon Boynkin, Trevon Boynkin, I always get that mixed up, did a decent job. Now, there was some play that didn't really help, and, obviously they're outmatched talent-wise, but they made it competitive. And I got to tip my cap to TCU. Oklahoma escaped out of that one. Would you say that they're looking ahead to Texas? I don't know if anyone's looking ahead to Texas now. But they came out on top. They're 5-0. This is Oklahoma's and Baylor's conference to win right now. I hope one of them runs to the table, because I also got to watch some of that Northwestern Ohio State game, and Ohio State barely got out of there alive. And I was hoping to all that is worthy that they would have got bounced or beat. I think what we're seeing is that more than likely Ohio State is pretty vulnerable this year, and we'll see. Two teams undefeated in the Big 12, 2 teams undefeated in the Big 10. The Big 10 has a championship game. We have round robin. I hate to say it, but it will probably screw over the Big 12 here at the end of the year, because Alabama's looking good. Missouri's undefeated. Someone from the Pac-12's got are the media darlings next to SEC this year. So chances are, if someone runs the table in that conference in the SEC, then it's probably going to be those 2 teams, and both the Big 12 and the Big 10 might be screwed out of it. That would be an interesting farewell to the BCS. But at any rate, I think if you had an undefeated team from the Big 12 and an undefeated team from the Big 10 this year, it's going to be close, and depending on the rest of the play of the conference, you'll probably see the nod given to the Big 10, unfortunately. So, come on, who's ever playing Ohio State. I think Michigan's going to choke eventually, so I'm not worried about that. But I need, Michigan to choke, and maybe Michigan to beat Ohio State, something like that to happen. So, we'll find out. At any rate, that's about it. It was a great weekend of football, even though my Wildcats lost. I'd have to say every game I watched ended up being pretty close and competitive. And that's all you can really ask for, It's a bunch of kids out there creating a bunch of drama. That's not on the Facebooks. That's a good thing. That's a really good thing. So, I'm going to close this guy down next week. Oh, look for some football feedings. I got the Pick It and Stick It coming. You're going to see some tasty food I made. The ultimate sandwich, let me tell you. And then next weekend I'll probably be out at ACL. I'll probably pop on Monday to do a roar just to kind of catch up on the news. I'm kind of glad I'm missing next week with the way Baylor's looking against Kansas State. That's going to be, I'm not going to exactly be excited to see that anyway. So, have a good week, y'all. Watch some football, maybe listen to some music, Maybe go old school, because that's how Kansas State played, was the old school Kansas State. And until next time, see ya.